34-year-old woman. She presented to a celiac specialty clinic a year after being on a gluten-free diet. She had been diagnosed by her family doctor as celiac. She had osteoporosis at 34 years old. Her history was she was the shortest girl in the class. She was losing her hair. She had constant chronic fatigue, recurring anemias all through high school. She didn't get her menstrual cycles until a year and a half after everybody else did. That's a failure to thrive. Shortest girl in the class, failure to thrive. And they did a blood test. All the blood markers were sky high. They did endoscopy. She had celiac disease, total villus atrophy. They said, "Madam, you must go on a gluten-free diet." She did for a year. She didn't feel any better. So she went to a specialty clinic, and they ran the blood tests. They were sky high. They did an endoscopy. It was still total villus atrophy. "Madam, you must be on a gluten-free." "I am." They said, "Completely?" "Completely." "Really?" Well, I had a piece of cake last month and maybe a crouton or two on a salad." No, completely. She said, "Okay." She comes back a year later. I think it was 18 months. No, it was a year. A year later, and she'd been completely gluten-free. Her blood tests are now high normal or just over in the high range instead of sky high. But her endoscopy is still total villus atrophy. Her energy was up a little bit. She was feeling better. Her hair loss had stopped, but she still had total villus atrophy. "Madam, you must be completely—" "I have been completely gluten-free." And they looked at her diet, and she had been. And they were about to call it refractory sprue. Now, that's a really fancy word that means we don't know why you've got this. I mean, it's a good Scrabble word. And then a really smart doc said, "Madam, are you a religious woman?" She was a nun in street clothes. It was the host. She was taking the host every day. "Madam, you must give up the wafer." "I will not. God will not allow it. We can't help you." She left. And they wrote their paper. They went to the church. They asked the priest for a host and break it the way he breaks it before he serves it. And they measured the amount of gluten in each piece of the host. And it comes out to be about 1 milligram. 1 milligram of gluten. Look at your thumbnail. Cut your thumbnail in half. Cut it in half again. That's a quarter. Cut it in half one more time. That's an eighth. An eighth of a thumbnail is about 1 milligram of gluten. And they wrote their paper, 1 milligram of gluten a day keeps the villus healing away. A cute little story. But then, unbeknownst to them, she did give up the host. The bishop made her give up the host. She came back 18 months later. She was radiant. Full head of hair, vibrant energy like she had never had in her life. Blood tests low normal. Endoscopy completely normal. All healed. It was that eighth of a thumbnail of gluten that was doing it.